All right, so we're diving into lean production today. And wow, this guide from toolthinker.com, it's really something.
It's amazing how much they packed in here.
Yeah, so much good stuff. We're going to break it all down. The core principles, how lean can totally change any process, really.
I mean, who wouldn't want to make things run smoother, right?
Exactly. And maybe even, you listening, you might get some ideas for your own life, too.
That's the cool thing about lean. It's not just for businesses. But speaking of business, it's interesting how lean production, this system that's used, everywhere now?
Oh, yeah. Factories, hospitals, software, you name it.
Right. But it all came from this really specific situation. Post-World War II Japan.
Okay, so set the scene for us. What was happening that made a system like lean, necessary?
Okay, imagine Japan right after the war. Everything's limited.
Right.
Resources, materials, everything.
Makes sense. Rebuilding, tough time.
Right. And you've got Toyota, this company. They want to make cars, right? They want to get production up and running, but they can't just stockpile a ton of stuff.
So they had to be really smart about it.
Exactly. They needed a system that was super efficient. And it couldn't rely on having mountains of extra materials just sitting around.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
And then, boom, Taiichi Ohno and Shigeo Shingo enter the picture. They're like the legends of lean.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, no, he's considered the father of lean. And he was all about eliminating waste, laser focused on it. He figured out that any step, anything you do in a process, if it's not adding value for the customer, it's just a drain.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about saving money, it's about being effective.
Yeah. It's got to be worthwhile from the customer's point of view. Think of it like baking a cake.
Okay, I like where this is going.
All right, so you're baking this cake and you spend an hour perfectly arranging the sprinkles. But the recipe only calls for a tiny bit.
So all that extra effort, it's kind of a waste. Exactly. It's not adding anything to the actual cake.
Yeah.
And Ohno would say that's happening all the time in businesses.
I'm starting to see how this goes way beyond, just car factories.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So Ohno is all about, trimming the fat. What about Shingo? What was his big contribution?
Shingo, he was all about quality control. He had this idea, he called it error-proofing or poka-yoke.
Poka-yoke?
Yeah. It's like designing a system where it's almost impossible to screw up. Think about those USB drives, the ones that only plug in one way.
Okay, yeah.
That's poka-yoke.
Smart. So Ohno attacks the waste, and Shingo makes sure you do it right the first time. A good team.
Yeah, a powerhouse combo.
So how did lean go from, Toyota's secret sauce to this thing everyone's using?
Well, Toyota was doing amazingly well, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the 70s, companies everywhere, they're like, what's their secret? And they started learning about this whole waste reduction, maximizing value thing.
The secret gets out.
Right. And they realized, hey, lean could work for them too.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible how it went from this necessity, born out of limited resources and became this universal framework.
Okay, so we've got some background. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. The core principles of lean, right? The guide lays out 5 of them. Value, value stream, flow, pull, and continuous improvement.
Those are the pillars, yeah. And what's really neat is that they all work together. It's not just separate ideas. They build this whole system.
All right, let's start with value. Seems pretty basic, but how does lean actually define it?
In lean, value is totally determined by the customer. It's about what they actually want, what they'll pay for, what solves their problems, makes their lives easier.
So your first job is to really understand your customer, deeply.
Yeah. What do they need? What do they actually want? And then how can you deliver that in the best way possible, the most efficient, the most effective way?
Okay, step 1, get inside your customer's head. Got it. Now you know what they value. How do you make sure you're actually delivering it? That's where the value stream comes in, right?
Right. The value stream, it's like visualizing every single step. Imagine a map, but instead of roads and cities, it's every action, every handoff, every delay in your process.
From the moment, a request comes in to the moment it's done.
Exactly. And that's where you start seeing the waste. Where are things getting stuck?
Makes sense. It's like having X-ray vision for your processes. Suddenly you see the bottlenecks, the redundancies, all that stuff.
Yeah. And once you've got that picture, you can start streamlining. Get rid of the stuff that's not working. Optimize what is.
Okay, so you've mapped it out, you found the waste. What's next? How do you get things running smoother?
That's where flow comes in. It's all about getting to this state of continuous movement in your process. Nothing's stopping it. Think of a river, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
When the river's flowing, it's efficient, powerful. But if you hit a dam or a bunch of rocks...
It gets backed up.
Exactly. Energy's wasted.
Okay, so if we're talking about like a factory, that might mean what? Rearranging the production line, making sure materials are ready to go.
Yeah, things like that. But how does flow work in, say, a hospital?
Good question.
Think about it. It's still about keeping things moving. How can you reduce wait times for patients? How do you make sure those tests are processed fast?
And that information gets from department to department, no problem.
Exactly. It's all about eliminating those pauses, those hiccups.
Okay, we've got value, value stream, and flow down. What's next?
Now we get to pull. And this one, it really turns things upside down. Instead of making a ton of stuff based on what you think people might want.
You only make it when someone actually orders it.
Right. That's pull. It's all about responding to actual demand, not some guess about the future.
That's going to be so much better for managing inventory, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With a pull system, you're not wasting resources on things that might not sell. You're not stuck with all that extra stuff. And one tool that makes pull possible is Kanban. It's basically a visual system that tells you exactly what to produce, when, and how much.
So you're not just guessing.
Yep.
All right, and finally, we've got continuous improvement, or what they call Kaizen. That seems like a biggie in Lean.
Kaizen is huge. It's like the heartbeat of Lean. It's about creating this culture where everyone's always looking for ways to make things better.
So it's not like these big disruptive changes. It's about little improvements all the time.
Yeah, small improvements every day. It adds up.
So it's like saying, okay, we've got this process down, but how can we make it even 1% better?
Yeah, exactly that. And it's not just about efficiency. It's about making things better quality, reducing errors, even making work more enjoyable. It's about everyone being a problem solver.
I like that. So we've talked about a lot, but waste is like this major focus in Lean, and the guide gets into those different Japanese terms for waste. Muda, Mura, and Muri. Let's start with Muda. What's that all about?
Muda is basically anything that's using up resources but not actually adding value to the end product.
Okay, so like those sprinkle arranging.
Right. And Lean breaks it down into 7 specific types. Overproduction, waiting, transport, extra processing, inventory, motion, and defects.
Whoa, 7 types. Okay, let's go through them. Overproduction seems pretty straightforward, right? Making too much stuff.
It is, yeah. Making more than you need or making it before you actually need it, like all the food waste you see in restaurants.
Ah, yeah, classic overproduction.
And then there's waiting, which is a huge no-no in Lean.
Yeah.
Anytime something's just sitting around idle.
Workers waiting for materials, machines not running.
Exactly. Or even information getting stuck somewhere. Think about all those emails you got to go through every morning.
Oh, don't get me started on email.
Right. That's a perfect example of transport waste.
In an office environment, yeah. Okay, so anything that slows down the flow.
Right.
What about extra processing? What does that mean?
Extra processing is doing more than you absolutely need to. Adding stuff the customer doesn't even want. Like filling out pointless forms or meetings that could have just been an email.
Oh, guilty as charged on that one.
Right. We've all been there.
Okay, what about inventory?
Inventory waste is having more stuff than you need. Now, you need some inventory, but the goal is to keep it as lean as possible.
Because it takes up space.
Right. It takes up space, ties up money. It can even become obsolete if you're not careful.
So it's about minimizing, streamlining, getting rid of anything you don't absolutely need.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Motion. Unnecessary movement. People walking back and forth across a room to get things.
Ah, so like if your workspace isn't well organized.
Exactly. Think about a chef running all over a kitchen because ingredients aren't prepped, or a surgeon having to reach across the operating table for a tool.
That should have been closer, yeah.
Right. And lastly, we have defects.
That one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's any errors, flaws, anything that needs rework or even scrapping the whole thing. Think about a software bug that crashes a whole system.
Oh, yeah, that's a defect with ripple effects.
Big time.
Okay, so we've covered the 7 types of Muda overproduction: waiting, transport, extra processing, inventory, motion, and defects. It's pretty cool how Lean breaks it down like that.
And that's what makes it so effective, right? By seeing those specific types of waste, you can start to come up with really focused solutions.
So you're not just saying, oh, we need to reduce waste. You're saying, okay, we have too much inventory. Let's fix that.
Exactly.
Okay, so Muda, we talked about that. But the guide also mentions Mura and Muri. What are those about?
You're right. Muda isn't the only bad guy in Lean. Mura is about unevenness, inconsistency in your processes.
Yeah.
And Muri is about overloading the system. Could be your employees, could be your equipment.
Okay, so break this down a little more. What do you mean by like unevenness?
Imagine a production line, And one station's going super fast, but the next one's struggling to keep up.
That's Mira.
Or a restaurant, slammed at dinner but dead in the afternoon. That up and down, it creates Mira.
So it's about smoothing things out, making the flow more consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And then Muri. That's about pushing things too hard, making employees work constant overtime, running machines at max capacity without any breaks.
That's asking for trouble.
It is. You'll get burnout, breakdowns, and ultimately more waste.
So Muri is inefficient, and it just creates a bad work environment, really.
Totally. Lean is about sustainable efficiency. You want to maximize output, but not by sacrificing quality or burning everyone out.
Okay, so we've got those 3 types of waste down: Muda, Mira, and Muri. I'm definitely going to be thinking about those at work and just in life, really.
It's amazing how much it applies, right?
Yeah. Now, the guide also gets into the specific tools and techniques for actually doing lean, and Kaizen, continuous improvement, that's at the top of the list.
It makes sense, right? Kaizen is more than just a tool. It's like the engine behind lean.
So it's about making that continuous improvement part of like your company's DNA.
Yeah. It's not about huge changes all at once. It's those small incremental improvements happening every day.
Little by little.
Right. Think of it like compound interest. Small changes, but over time, they really add up.
Okay, the guide mentions something called Kaizen events. What are those exactly?
They're basically these focused bursts of improvement. Imagine you bring together a team from different parts of the company.
Okay, cross-functional team, got it.
And you give them a few days to tackle a specific problem.
Like a mini project.
Yeah. They analyze what's going on, brainstorm ideas, and then try to implement solutions fast.
So it's like dedicated time to making things better.
Right.
Okay, what else goes along with Kaizen?
One of the most well-known tools is the 5S system. It's all about a clean, organized, efficient workspace.
Laying the foundation.
Exactly. It's about making the workplace productive and safe.
Okay, I've heard of 5S, but honestly, I couldn't name all 5S's. Refresh my memory.
Of course. So the 5S's are sort, set and order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Simple, but really powerful.
Okay, let's walk through them. What does sort involve?
Sort is all about decluttering. You go through your workspace and you ask yourself, do I actually need this?
Brutal honesty.
Right. And if the answer is no, get rid of it, throw it away, recycle, whatever, but it's gotta go.
So it's like Marie Kondoing your workspace. If it doesn't spark joy, toss it.
Exactly. And by getting rid of that clutter, you free up space, you reduce distractions, and you can find what you need so much faster.
Makes total sense. All right, so you sorted through everything, gotten rid of the junk. What's next?
Set in order. That's about organizing the stuff you've kept in a logical way. Where things are stored, how easy they are to access, how often you use them.
So designing your workspace for maximum efficiency.
Exactly. You want everything to have its place, so it's easy to see what's missing or out of place. It makes things more efficient and helps prevent mistakes and accidents.
Okay, on to shine. That one seems pretty self-explanatory, keeping things clean.
Yeah, but it's more than that. Shine is about having pride in your workspace. Regular cleaning, inspecting equipment, making sure everything's in good shape.
So it's not just clean, it's like well-maintained.
Exactly. It shows you care about the space.
So a workplace that's efficient, pleasant, and safe. Okay, so after sort, set in order, and shine, you've got to standardize, right?
Right. Once you've got those first 3 down, you want to make sure everyone's doing them the same way.
Same procedures, same standards, everybody's on the same page.
Exactly. This might mean making checklists, visual aids, even training programs. You want everyone to understand the standards and how to keep them up.
And I'm guessing the final S, sustain, is about making sure those good habits actually stick.
You got it. This one takes commitment.
Yeah.
Ongoing effort, regular checks, and being willing to adapt the system if you need to. It's about making these principles part of the culture.
They become second nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm seeing how the 5S system can totally transform a workspace.
It really can. It's like setting the stage for all the other lean tools and techniques. It's a great place to start.
So we've talked about Kaizen and the 5S system. What other tools are key for lean production?
Well, we've mentioned just-in-time, or GIT, a few times already.
Producing only what's needed when it's needed.
Yep, that's it.
We talked about it with the pull principle, right?
Right. Aligning production with actual demand. No more relying on forecasts that might be wrong.
So it's like a perfectly timed dance between like supply and demand.
It is. And it minimizes waste, keeps inventory low, and lets you react to customers quickly.
So instead of a warehouse full of stuff that may or may not sell, you're only making what you have orders for.
Exactly.
But that's got to take a lot of coordination, right?
It does. You need a really good relationship with your suppliers, efficient processes internally, and a delivery system you can count on. But the payoff, it's huge. Less waste, lower costs, faster turnaround times.
The guide mentioned that JIT is especially helpful for companies dealing with fluctuating demands, like what stuff that's really popular at certain times of year.
Yeah. Or things that are expensive to produce.
Okay, why is that?
So imagine you make, like, swimwear or holiday decorations.
Seasonal stuff.
Right. You'll have huge demand at certain times, then it drops off. With a traditional system, you might end up with tons of leftovers at the end of the season. But with JIT, you're only making what you know you can sell.
And for the pricey stuff, it keeps you from having a bunch of money just sitting around in a warehouse.
Right. You can use that money for other things. Research, marketing, even just paying your employees.
Okay, JIT. Definitely powerful. But how do you actually make it work? How do you make sure those parts and materials show up exactly when you need them?
And that's where Kanban comes in again.
That visual system.
Yeah, Kanban is like the trigger. It tells you when to make more of something or replenish a part.
So it might be like cards on a board, bins, maybe even electronic signals.
Could be. And as each step's finished, a signal goes to the previous step, telling them to start on the next batch.
So it's a chain reaction.
Yeah, but it's not on a fixed schedule. It's triggered by actual need. That's what makes Kanban so good for JIT.
It creates that flow.
Exactly, that smooth, demand-driven flow. It's all about getting rid of waste.
All right, so we've got JIT and Kanban keeping things moving. What other tools are important?
We can't talk about lean without Poka-yoke.
Ah, Poka-yoke. Mistake proofing.
That's it.
Making it so foolproof that even I can't mess it up.
Exactly. It's about designing your system so that errors just can't happen in the first place.
Okay, I can see how that would be a win for improving quality. But give me some real-world examples. How's Poka-yoke used?
Oh, tons of ways. One of my favorites is the design of those gas caps on cars. The ones that stop you from putting in the wrong type of fuel.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
That's Poka-yoke in action. A little design tweak, but it stops people from putting diesel in a gas engine.
Which would be bad.
Yeah, really bad.
What other examples are there?
In manufacturing, you might use sensors to make sure parts are put in correctly. Or in a hospital, color-coded wristbands to avoid medication mix-ups.
So it's not always high-tech. It's about thinking through those error-prone spots.
Yeah, and putting in safeguards. They can be simple, like a checklist, or super complex, like an AI system.
The key is being proactive.
Exactly.
Okay, Poka-yoke definitely fits into that whole preventing waste thing.
It's all connected. If you stop the errors from happening, you're cutting out so much rework and headache down the line.
And it's not just efficiency, it's about quality, making things safer, more reliable.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a ton. Kaizen, the 5S system, just-in-time, Kanban, Poka-yoke, these are all serious tools. But how does a company actually start using this stuff?
Well, the guide lays out 5 main steps for implementing lean. Identify value, map the value stream, establish flow, implement a pull system, and pursue continuous improvement.
Okay, and that last one, we've talked about that quite a bit.
We have.
So let's start at the beginning. Identify value. What's that all about in lean?
Remember, in lean, the customer defines value. So this first step is about understanding your customer better than ever. It's going deeper than just like basic demographics.
So it's not just sending out a survey, right? It's about real conversations.
Right. Seeing how they actually use your products or services. Maybe even doing some like in-depth research to see how it fits into their lives.
You got to get into their heads.
Exactly. The goal is to really get it, to understand them, because only then can you see what's actually valuable to them in what you're offering.
Everything else is just noise.
Right.
Okay, so you figured out what the customer truly values. What's next?
That's when you map the value stream.
We talked about that, right? That visual roadmap.
Yeah. It's about seeing every single step start to finish.
From when a customer places an order or requests the service to the very end when they get it.
Exactly. And the goal here is to find those spots where things get stuck.
Bottlenecks, delays, all that.
Yeah. Steps that add time and cost, but aren't actually adding value.
It's like putting your whole operation under a microscope.
Right. And that value stream map, it's not just a document. It's something you keep updating as you make changes.
Okay, so we've identified value, mapped the value stream. What's next?
Establish flow. We've talked about that
Yeah.
principle.
Creating that smooth movement.
Right. It's about getting rid of those points of friction that slow everything down.
Making sure things move seamlessly from one stage to the next.
Exactly. This might mean rearranging workspaces, figuring out layouts, clarifying who does what, or even getting new technology to make communication smoother.
Okay, we've identified value, mapped the value stream, established flow. What's next?
Implement a pull system. It's about aligning production with what's actually needed.
So, not pushing products through based on guesses, but making things when there's an actual demand.
Exactly. It means switching from make to stock to make to order.
Hmm.
And it takes everyone working together being able to adapt quickly to changes.
And tools like Kanban are really important for making a pull system work, right?
Oh, absolutely. Kanban gives you that real-time look into what's going on.
You see what's needed, when it's needed, and how much.
It's like a control tower for your work.
Constantly monitoring and adjusting.
Yep.
Okay, last but not least, continuous improvement. Kaizen. We've gone over that one quite a bit, but it seems like this step is about all the other steps too, making lean part of how you do everything.
You're right. Continuous improvement, it's like the base for all those other lean principles.
It's about creating that culture where everyone's looking for ways to do things better, not just for efficiency, but for quality, safety, customer satisfaction.
Exactly. It's about encouraging everyone from the top down to be problem solvers, innovators.
Never settling.
Right. And you got to give them the tools, the training, the support they need to do that.
It's inspiring, really. This whole lean thing, it's a complete approach. It's not just about, like, a few tricks.
It's a way of thinking.
Yeah, it's about constantly learning and adapting.
That's what makes it so powerful and adaptable. You can use it anywhere, any industry, any process, as long as you're committed to doing better.
Okay, we've talked about the steps, but I'm sure there are challenges when companies try to do this. What are some of the biggest roadblocks?
Well, one of the biggest is resistance to change. People get comfortable with how things are, So when you try to bring in new ways of working, you might get some pushback.
That's understandable. Change can be scary, especially at work.
Right. So how do you deal with that? It's about communication,
Yeah.
involvement.
Making people part of the process.
Exactly. Let them understand why things are changing, how it'll benefit them, and that their opinions matter.
So it's not just like orders from the top.
Nope. You want people to feel ownership. Another challenge is people misunderstanding what lean is all about.
How so?
Sometimes companies just focus on cutting costs. They miss the bigger picture of creating value and always improving.
So they might see lean as a way to like slash budgets and get rid of jobs.
Yeah. They don't think about the long-term effects on quality, morale, even how happy the customers are.
It's got to be about more than just saving money.
It is. It's about getting rid of all kinds of waste. Wasted time, wasted materials, wasted energy.
Wasted potential, even.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Doing more with less, but without hurting quality.
Right. And that takes a different way of thinking. It's not just short-term cost reduction. It's about building something that lasts.
Okay, so resistance to change and people getting the wrong idea about lean. What other challenges are there?
Another big one is keeping up the improvements. It's easy to get some early wins, but keeping that momentum going.
That's the hard part.
It is. You don't want it to be like what's the phrase?
Flavor of the month.
Yeah. People get excited, but then they go back to their old ways.
So how do you keep that from happening?
It takes effort, ongoing commitment, and you need a system to reinforce it. Regular reviews, ways to measure performance, even rewards for doing well. Lean needs to become a way of life.
Not just a project.
Right. And it needs everyone on board. Leaders, employees, everyone understanding that lean's a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly.
Okay, one last challenge to talk about. The guide mentioned balancing efficiency with quality. It seems like people think lean might mean sacrificing quality to be more efficient.
That's a big myth. Lean isn't about sacrificing quality to be faster or cheaper. Actually, it's the opposite. You want both.
You want to do things quickly and well.
Right. You want to streamline things without messing up what you're offering to the customer.
So you need to really understand what quality means to the customer.
Yeah. What are the things you absolutely can't compromise on?
And then you build quality into the process. Use tools like Pokeyoke to stop errors before they happen.
Right. And empower employees to spot and fix quality issues.
Quality and efficiency aren't enemies.
Nope. They often go together. When you get rid of waste and streamline, you often improve quality at the same time.
Makes sense. You're not wasting time fixing mistakes so you can focus on doing it right the first time.
Exactly. And that's what lean's all about.
Okay, we've talked about the challenges, but how do you know if it's working? How do you measure success with lean?
Data. You can't improve what you don't measure, right? And the guide talks about some key things you can track in lean.
Metrics.
Right. Lead time, cycle time, first pass yield, and tack time.
Okay, let's take those one by one. Starting with lead time. What's that?
Lead time is the total time from start to finish, from when a customer asks for something to when they get it.
So it's a measure of how fast you can get things done.
Yeah. And in lean, making that lead time shorter is a big deal. The faster you can deliver, the better.
Makes sense. What about cycle time? How's that different?
Cycle time is more focused. It's about how long it takes to do one complete cycle of a specific task.
Okay, so if you're thinking about an assembly line, it's like the time for one unit to go from one station to the next.
Exactly. You're looking at just one part of the process, and by tracking that, you can see where the holdups are, those inefficiencies.
And then you can make it better, speed things up.
Right.
Okay, 2 down, 2 to go. What's first pass yield?
First pass yield, we call it FPY. It's all about quality. It tells you how many products or services get through the whole process without needing any fixes.
So a high FPY means you're doing things right the first time.
You got it. Saves a ton of time, resources, and stress. It means your processes are reliable, you're delivering good stuff consistently.
Okay, last one, tact time. We touched on that earlier, talking about Mira, that unevenness in the workflow.
Right. Tack time is about finding the right rhythm for your work.
So you can meet demand.
Exactly. And do it without creating bottlenecks or working people too hard.
So, like, if a company needs to make 100 units a day and they have 8 hours, their tack time would be 1 unit every 4.8 minutes.
Exactly. You mash your work to the tack time, and you get a more balanced flow, fewer ups and downs, less burnout.
It's cool how Lean has all these specific metrics to track progress.
It's all about the data. Lean's data-driven. You use the data to make decisions, find problems, track how you're doing.
It's not just about measuring, it's about using that information to make things better.
Right. The guide suggests setting up a system to measure continuously. Always be collecting data, make sure everyone can understand it, and then use it to make changes and get better all the time.
Data is what keeps the Lean engine going.
It really is.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, from like Toyota in the beginning to all these tools and techniques. But one thing that really sticks out to me is how flexible Lean is. It's not just for factories anymore.
Definitely not. Every industry is figuring out how to use these principles.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is how Lean is like meeting up with this whole digital transformation thing.
Oh yeah, that's a game changer. All these digital tools are giving companies new ways to supercharge their Lean efforts.
Give me an example.
Think about real-time data tracking. With sensors and smart software, you can keep an eye on those metrics we talked about.
Cycle times, first pass yield, all that.
Yeah. While it's happening.
It's like having a live dashboard for your whole business.
Exactly. You see problems right away before they get out of control. It's all about being proactive, catching those bottlenecks, making sure quality stays high, and then you've got predictive analytics. That's a whole other level.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Imagine using data to, predict what's going to happen.
Before it happens.
Yeah, you're not just reacting to problems, you're staying ahead of them.
That's some next level stuff.
It is. Things like machine learning and AI, they're letting companies forecast demand, figure out the best inventory levels, even predict problems before they show up. It's pretty wild.
Okay, I gotta ask about this. Where does automation fit into all of this? We hear so much about robots and AI taking jobs. Does that clash with Lean?
Actually, no. Lean is all about getting the most value, and that includes getting the most out of people. Automation, it can handle those repetitive tasks that no one really likes anyway.
The boring stuff.
Right.
Well.
So then people can focus on stuff that needs creativity, problem solving, things robots can't do.
So instead of replacing jobs, it's more like changing them, letting people focus on their strengths.
Exactly. It's about working smarter. Let the robots do the robot stuff and let humans do the human stuff.
I like that.
It's a win-win.
It is. Okay, zooming out a bit. There's this connection between Lean and sustainability, isn't there?
Totally. Lean is about getting rid of waste. And waste is anything that doesn't add value.
So it's not just physical stuff, it's also wasted time, wasted energy.
Right. So by its nature, Lean is already on the same page as sustainability.
They're both about doing more with less.
Yeah. Think about cutting down inventory. When you only make what you need, you don't end up with a ton of extra stuff going to a landfill. And focusing on efficiency, that usually means less energy use too.
Streamlined workflows, less wasted steps.
Exactly. It all adds up to a smaller impact on the environment.
Okay, that makes sense for a factory, but how does lean help sustainability in other places, like healthcare?
Good question. In healthcare, they use lean to make things run smoother. How patients move through the system, how resources are used, cutting down on wait times.
So it's better for patients and better for the environment.
Exactly. What about software development? How did lean fit in there?
I'm curious too now.
Well, it's about making the development process better. Less bugs, less clunky software, and building things that will last longer. Imagine software so good it barely needs updates.
So less energy used on running those updates.
Right. It's like making a website that loads super fast. Better experience and less energy used.
It's incredible how lean works in so many different fields. It's not just about making cars anymore.
It's a global movement, changing how people think about work.
It's come a long way from Toyota.
It has. And what's exciting is that it's always changing, always improving. There's always more to learn, new ways to use these principles to make things better.
You know, even just learning about all this is making me think about my own life. Like, how can I use this stuff?
Yeah. It's not just for companies.
Yeah.
You can use these ideas to be more productive in all parts of life.
Streamline my routines, declutter my desk.
Be more mindful of waste.
It's like a whole different way of thinking.
That's what lean's all about. Finding ways to do more with less, getting rid of waste, making things better for everyone.
It's funny, isn't it? We started talking about Toyota, cars, factories.
And now we're talking about, life improvement.
Yeah. Personal growth, even making the world better. It just goes to show these lean principles, they're not stuck in one place.
They really are a way of thinking. You can use them anywhere you want to make things better.
I keep thinking about those 5 core principles: value, value stream, flow, pull, continuous improvement. It's not just for business.
Nope. Think about your own life.
Yeah.
What are you all about? What matters most to you?
Your values.
Right. Once you know those, you can start mapping out the value streams in your life. What are you actually doing to get to those things you care about?
So it was like, okay, I want to spend more time with my family, but I'm working crazy hours.
Right. So what can you change at work to free up some time? What can you stop doing? What can you hand off to someone else?
Make space for the important stuff.
Exactly. Be smart about how you use your time and energy. Focus on the things that are actually getting you where you want to go.
And get rid of the distractions, the time wasters.
Yeah. And that's where flow and pull come in.
Okay, so flow, that's about making things smoother.
Right. Yeah. How can you make your daily routines flow better? Maybe it's about getting your morning routine down so you're not rushing around like crazy. Or setting up your workspace so you don't waste time looking for stuff.
And pull, I'm guessing that's about, being more responsive to what actually needs to get done.
You got it.
Yeah.
Don't try to do everything at once. Focus on the most important tasks, the ones that match your values and your goals.
Learn to say no.
Yes, to the stuff that's not really important.
So be selective. Focus on what matters.
Don't waste energy on things that don't.
Okay. And then there's continuous improvement. Always finding ways to do better.
Even with the little things.
It's about paying attention. How am I spending my time? Is there a better way to do this?
Always ask those questions. Make little adjustments. It all adds up over time.
It's pretty amazing how these lean ideas work for personal stuff, too.
Oh, it's like a whole new way to live, really. Be more intentional, more efficient.
Get more out of life.
Exactly. It all starts in your head.
Oh.
You got to realize that waste is everywhere. In your house, at work, even in how you think.
Once you see it.
You can start getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Make space for the stuff that really matters.
So we went from Toyota and car parts to personal growth to, saving the world.
It's been quite the journey.
It has. I'm definitely thinking about efficiency and waste differently now.
Yeah.
And about how to keep improving.
That's the key. This is just the start. There's so much more to lean.
It's a whole world to discover.
So keep learning, keep trying things out, and see how you can use these ideas to make a difference.
In your own world, that's what it's all about. Thanks for listening.